Building the perfect White House card. With the UFC allegedly holding a pay-per-view at the White House in 2026, I decided to build the perfect pay-per-view for it, with the goal being to bring in as many new fans as possible. Now, I've seen some people make cards for this event, and I feel like people are getting the wrong idea about it. We don't need super fights or big names on the card because a lot of the new fans or people that don't know won't really care if a belt is on the line or who's fighting. They won't know any of the storylines. In order to convince them to become new fans, we need above everything else perfect matchmaking with only exciting fights and finishes. We need about 10 to 11 fights in total that isn't ultra stacked, but some ranked opponents and maybe one title fight that has some meaning to it. We also need mostly striking matchups with grappler versus grappler fights because usually grappler versus grappler is more fun than striker versus grappler, kind of like the Aljamain Sterling versus Evelev fight. Ideally, we have at least one American in every single fight, and we get fighters who are entertaining, deserve it, and we know are going to show up. Now, we have to predict how the UFC will look in 1 year because this event will take place July 4th, 2026 if it does happen. For starters, Conor McGregor will not be fighting on this card. He's not reliable. He's probably still on coke. And he pulled out during International Fight Week over a broken pinky toe. He's not reliable. He's not going to make it through a training camp. He cannot headline this event because we can't risk the headliner pulling out 2 weeks before the fight. Jon Jones is another one that should not headline this event. One, he doesn't deserve it. He ducked Tom Aspinall, and he shouldn't fight anyone else if it's not Tom Aspinall, and he's not reliable. He pulled out a few years ago. He's getting old. I don't trust him really to make it through a training camp. And both of those guys, at the end of the day, we just can't fully rely on them, and they shouldn't be headlining the event, in my opinion. Now, opening up the main card with a fight that fits this criteria would be Kevin Holland. Holland is always entertaining and always shows up. I think in a year, he'll slowly move up the rankings at 170 and then lose to a top 10 guy, leaving him at this time with someone unranked or just barely ranked. I think Colby Covington would be the best option because Colby probably won't fight for another year. And fighting at the White House is something that he would probably come out of retirement for because let's be real, he's basically retired. I don't really see him fighting anymore. It doesn't really make sense for him. And it would be two Americans fighting against each other. Colby has the whole USA theme. Kevin Holland always shows up. It's a fight that makes sense. It's going to be entertaining. And I think because Covington is kind of washed, I don't think he's really going to have much success taking down Kevin Holland. And I think we could see a knockout or a submission from Kevin Holland. But if Colby Covington doesn't show up, he doesn't want to fight anymore, we could do someone like Jacoby Smith, who is super entertaining, slowly coming up the rankings. Or we could see a Mike Mallet fight, America versus Canada. But overall, I think the best option would be Kevin Holland versus Colby Covington opening up the main card. Now, next up, if we want guaranteed violence, we should have a flyweight fight. They always deliver. They deserve the spotlight. Now, I think Brandon Royval is the perfect option for this. He's another guy that always brings it. He's always entertaining. He's American, and he deserves the spotlight, especially for taking the Van fight, risking his #1 contender spot when he really didn't need to. I'd like to see him either face Kai Kara France, but honestly, I think in the meantime, they're going to fight each other, so I don't think it's likely that this fight will happen in July of 2026. I'd like to see him face Kai Asakura. The whole reason we brought him to the UFC is to do entertaining fights. He's guaranteed violence. So is Brandon Royval. It's going to be a striking matchup, and it's going to be very entertaining for 3 rounds. I don't know if we're going to see a finish. It's probably going to be a war for 15 minutes. Next, we have the featured fight. And for this fight, we need a grappler versus grappler matchup because we don't want all striking matchups, but if we have a grappler versus grappler, it could be entertaining. Now, Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega would be perfect for this, but since it's already booked, it's not going to happen again. They're not going to do a rematch in 1 year. We have to find a new fight. And I feel like we have about 2 good options for this. Now, this may be controversial, but just stay with me. I would want to see Grant Dawson versus Gamrot. And I know that sounds crazy because they're both known as kind of boring fighters, but people were saying the same thing with Sterling and Evelev, and I feel like this actually would be entertaining. They both are probably going to stuff the takedowns. They're going to keep on shooting on each other. It's going to be insane scrambles, and it is going to be pretty good and show off UFC grappling. Plus, you have Grant Dawson. He's going to be climbing up the rankings. He's American. I think if he gets a few ranked wins, he deserves this fight. We could do Grant Dawson versus someone like Arman Tsarukyan if he loses, but I think Arman's going to keep on winning and they're going to kind of hold him out for the title shot. So I don't think it's going to make sense. The other realistic option is we could do Evelev versus Ortega. If Ortega beats Sterling and Evelev loses for the title, I could see that happening. A lot would have to happen for that fight to take place. Now, this wouldn't be a stacked featured fight, but it would be two guys at the time in the top 10 at lightweight, the best division in the UFC. It would be a fun grappler versus grappler matchup, and I think it would end up being a very good fight. Now, the co-main event, I think that they should do Sean O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo. Sean is sort of a star, not really, but he's a recognizable name and he's always entertaining. He's a KO artist. I get he lost to Merab, but everyone loses to Merab. Plus, he has beef with Henry Cejudo. It's going to be a really good build-up. Cejudo said he only has one more fight before he retires, but if they offer him Sean O'Malley to come out of a retirement for the second time at the White House, he's going to accept it. Plus, Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist for America. It would be a good story. It would be good for the casuals. A lot of people would like this fight, and people would be very excited for it. I also think that could be competitive. I know people will say Sean O'Malley would destroy him, knock him out, but Cejudo has a very underrated chin, and he's pretty good on the feet very fast, and he doesn't look that washed. Who knows what he'll look like in a year from now, but as of right now, against even Song Yadong, maybe he didn't look like he was in his prime, but he didn't look that bad, especially on the feet. This would be a very good co-main event for the card. Now, the main event. Now, part of the problem is we don't really have any American men champions, which kind of throws this whole thing off. I know people will say WMMA, Kayla Harrison, Amanda Nunes, which would be good. Olympic gold medalist again for America. But this card is going to be a year from now. They're already going to make that fight by this time. So I don't think that that's going to headline this. Again, Jones versus Tom would be perfect, but Jones isn't reliable. He doesn't want to fight Aspinall. And if Jones isn't fighting Aspinall, he shouldn't fight at all. I don't think guys like Magomed, Dricus, Hamzat, JDM should really headline this card. And while I said super fights aren't needed on this card, I do think that we should do Islam versus Ilya, and here's why. It's going to be guaranteed violence. It's going to be super entertaining. It's a massive fight, and the timeline makes sense. Ilya is probably going to fight in December, maybe Pinlet, maybe Arman, maybe Gaethje. He's going to win that fight. Islam is going to fight in November or October against JDM. Win or lose, he's going to come back down to 155, and he needs a little bit more time to recover. International Fight Week is the perfect time for those guys to fight. And you have to think, whoever wins in the main event for this card is going to become a superstar. And we need guys who are going to keep on winning, keep on getting finishes, and who can hold that stardom. And Islam versus Ilya are already 2 stars, and whoever wins this fight, especially at the White House, they are going to become almost Conor McGregor level. Probably not at that level. I don't think anyone will get to that level, but it's going to be somewhat close, and they are going to be the new face of the UFC. It's going to be crazy, and I trust those guys to become stars, to keep on winning after this event, which is very important for stars, is to keep on winning, to keep on being active, and to get finishes, highlight reel KOs, submissions, stuff like that. One of those 2 guys, whoever wins, is going to do that. Plus, there's probably going to be a finish. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you disagree with about this card that I made. And yeah, that is it for me.